pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
My normal speech, if you have a cell phone, please either mute it or turn it off. Thank you. Approval of treasurer warrants for October 19th, October 26th, and November 2nd.
I'll move the warrants of October 19th, 26th, and November 2nd.
Second. All those in favor? 5-0. Thank you. Accounts payable warrants for October 23rd, October 30th, and November 6th.
I move that we approve the accounts payable warrants for October 23rd, October 30th, and November 6th, 2018.
I'll second it. All those in favor? Thank you. Approval of minutes for October 16, 2018. Are there any corrections, errors? Anybody find anything? Yes, Ben?
Excuse me. I have an addition under 9, unfinished business. After that paragraph, I would like to have it read, Ben Rhines Jr. moved the Board of Selectmen recommended the article concerning overdrafts, vote 5-0-0.
Okay. Jackie, did you get that?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. That's fine. Any other corrections? Can I have a motion to approve as amended?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0. Thank you. Well, tonight is a very special night for us. We have 2 new officers being sworn in. Chief, would you like to come up and bring your officers, Bernice? And introduce them to the town?
Well, as most of you know, we've been down a couple officers in the Wiscasset Police Department. It's my privilege to introduce Officer Corey Hubert and Jonathan Barnes. I feel like I've selected good candidates, quality candidates that are community-minded and will represent the police department well. If I can get that wife. Or girlfriend, fiance.
Stand over there so the board can
Yes,
see
could
the
you please stand over there? Thank you. No, you're fine. You're fine. Wait, hold up. The fire. Whoever. Oh, the little one. Isn't she adorable? Isn't she precious? Somebody.
Yep.
You're going to snap a kick shot.
You will raise your right hand. I, and state your name,
I, Corey Hubert,
do swear that I will support the Constitution
do swear that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and of this state,
and of the state,
so long as I continue
so long as I continue
a citizen thereof.
a citizen thereof.
I, and state your name,
I, Corey Hubert,
do swear that I will faithfully discharge,
do swear that I will faithfully discharge
to the best of my abilities,
to the best of my abilities
the duties incumbent upon me
the duties incumbent upon me
as police officer for the town of Wiscasset,
as police officer for the town of Wiscasset,
according to the Constitution
according to the Constitution
and the laws of this state.
and the laws of the state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Now just the badge pennant. You guys can do it one at a time or together, doesn't matter.
Do that again.
That'll be a good picture.
Yeah. Do it again.
So thank you, I apologize, I gotta run.
No, you go right ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, very much, gentlemen. Welcome to Wiscasset.
Thank you.
You may go.
Well, we do it. Well,
Oh, there you go. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Okay, we have no committee appointments, we have no public hearings, so our next item is public comment. At each regular selectman meeting, there will be time devoted to any resident or taxpayer of the town of Wiscasset to address the selectmen regarding any item that is not on the agenda for that meeting. Comments will be limited to 5 minutes per person. I'll go with Judy first, ladies first.
I just wanted to give a shout out to the Wiscasset Family Wishes that we do every season this time of year. This is a program of volunteers who have organized and then support from the community for families that we need during the holidays for gifts for their children. And the applications are available at the town office. They're due back November 15th. And then tags are made for each item that is requested. Each family, for each child, is allowed 2 wishes and 2 wants. And members of the board have helped in the past. Today, Catherine was at a gathering where we did some of the tags. It's a wonderful program, and it's always heartwarming because it's a community supported businesses and individuals, and churches help with this. So any questions, you can call me 882-7056 or ask someone in the town office, they can help you. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
Good evening, Selectmen. I appeared, James Koshin, I'm a business owner and a resident business owner on Main Street downtown. At the September 4th Selectmen's meeting, during the public comment, I reminded the Board of Selectmen that prior to the lawsuit, from March 2017 forward, MDOT had agreed with the town that there would be a loading zone on the southbound lane on the primary commercial block, which was not reinstated in their final drawings awarded in the contract. And since the town has been backwards with work with MDOT in all respects, I submitted that the town really wanted to address this again with MDOT to ensure we were getting that loading zone. Now, the town, my understanding at that meeting was the town had resolved that they would enter into a discussion with the commissioner about reinstating that loading zone. I've been away for the past 3 weeks on a family illness emergency, but asked my partner in my absence to get a status update about a week ago. And it seems that as effective as of 1 November, really nothing had been done, and then a query was made with Ernie Martin, who has no, Ernie Martin who has said repeatedly he is not a decision maker, replied, these are the existing loading zones, which we already knew what they were, and that's where the matter seems to have lain. I've had to take my matters in hand, as I pointed out to you. If we had no loading zone, I have no way to load in or out for my business any longer, nor will anyone else on the middle part of that block. So I have effectively notified my landlord that I am pulling out. I will move into my own property on Ford Hill Street and continue my business. I was happy to pay the fairly high rent to stay on Main Street because I was benefiting from good walk-in. But without this, I feel my own business and any other business that tries to occupy that space will no longer find themselves having a successful business operation. I no longer have a vested interest in this. I can move on from this. But I urge the Board of Selectmen to take this matter seriously, re-enter into discussions with MDOT before it's too late. We now, when I pull out effective 1 December, there will be 6 retail business spaces vacant on our tiny little Main Street business district. 3 of which are directly attributable to this MDOT project not allowing for a loading zone at minimum, besides the loss of our street parking.
Thank you, Jim.
Just an update to the board members. Catherine graciously shared with me the communications, and I did forward those to MDOT. I forwarded it to Bill Pulver, who is Ernie Martin's supervisor, and the response that I received is the response that I shared with Catherine. I would remind, I don't need to remind Ben and Judy because they were present, but when we met with the commissioner, we did look at the map and we did talk about the loading zones. But they were not changed. In fact, I think, Ben, it was you that asked the question about where they were. So we did share the information. I don't have any other information than that, but to share it with MDOT, and I did do that. So if the board wants me to do something else, I'm pleased to do it, but I've done everything, and I do appreciate, Catherine, that you shared the concern with me, because I did send it right up to Augusta, so.
What was the response that they gave, that you gave to Catherine?
Just what Jim just said,
They just
basically.
stated there's going to be that little loading zone in front of the former Chinese restaurant, which is accommodate a small box panel truck at the very most. And then we have the loading zone on Railroad Avenue behind Red's, and a very unsafe loading zone in front of Red's. So Red's has great loading zone and nobody else has loading zone in the downtown. I might also point out that the bollards that we have here are not removable. There's no way somebody could pull over there to do any type of offloading, nor, and this is a big concern for Public Works, what's going to happen with snow removal in winter? If we had that loading zone in there, part of that area could be used, as we've always done, where the mounds grow up until they can take it away. That happens for weeks at a time. So it's been very interesting to see the new strategies just for snow removal in this town come winter time, when we have very compressed streets and no place to put snow. Thank you.
What was Mr. Culver's response when you asked him about the loading zones?
What I did specifically was I shared the communication that Catherine received. I just forwarded it right on to them.
And we amended that?
No, we did.
Are you speaking about the communication on the 1st of November?
It was a communication that Kim sent to
Right,
Catherine.
right. That was a status check, because what had happened at the September meeting, We were all under the impression that the Board of Selectmen was going to send a delegation to meet with the commissioner about reinstating that loading zone.
I was not aware of
The
that.
minutes of your own meeting says the town was going to look into reinstating that loading zone. I'm sorry?
That's different than a delegation. I'm sorry, but I feel like our meeting is getting hijacked right now. There are loading zones at either end of that block, which seems sufficient. There are bollards that are not removable because you shouldn't be loading and offloading on the side of the block because of safety. And use the crosswalk. Good luck in your new location.
Very good.
Catherine.
I think I would like to ask Marion to telephone the commissioner or his assistant, but no lower than number 2, and explain this dilemma. And to do it as quickly as possible so that we do have an answer.
I don't think
Because
it's
he's
normal.
absolutely right. I mean,
Yeah.
it is. You think about it, I can't imagine what our town crew is gonna have. Where are they gonna put the snow? So not only the loading zone, but the other information he shared, which I never thought of, or because I don't plow snow, but obviously that is gonna be a consequence that the town is gonna have to deal with. So I think we need some sort of an answer from somebody up there.
We can at least ask the question, get a clarification.
Yeah,
Which is what we did.
I will send the email again, but all I did, because I didn't want
Oh, I know
to
you
misrepresent anything that was stated, I literally
Right.
forwarded what Kim wrote to you, and you shared with me, I sent it to Augusta, so
I understand that.
I'm pleased to do it again,
But
I'll send it.
But no, I think a telephone call is what is needed. They probably get hundreds of emails a day. I just,
Well, Ernie Martin is not the decision maker. It
no,
has to
he
go
isn't. He's a
above Ernie.
project manager, so we have to go above Ernie
Right.
Martin.
And that's what I thought was going to happen
after.
after that September 4th thing. That's what was reflected in the minutes. That's certainly my understanding what was going to happen. No dialogue was done until November 1st. I'm deeply disappointed, but I've moved on. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, and welcome to Wiscasset.
Thank you all.
Beautiful children.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to make a public comment before we go on? Okay. Department head or committee chair, Chief T.J. Murray is not here, regarding the fire station door opener issue.
I will be postponed that for a later date.
Yes, I would
I'll
like to
second
have him
that.
here. Do we need a motion on
I don't think we can we? Make a, vote if it's not on the agenda,
It is on the
that? It
agenda.
is on the
but
agenda.
not to take action. We can just table it, do we have to vote on it?
We don't have to
Oh,
vote just
okay,
here.
well, I just,
Okay.
right now, but I raised
You
my
just
hand.
raised your hand,
And
okay.
I just automatically seconded it.
Okay.
Well done.
Request that he attend the
Yeah.
November 13th meeting, please.
I know.
Okay, Waterfront Committee, Boardwalk Project Update.
Susan, you can move this around if you want, or have Mr. Forrest come up and move it. Mr. Forrest can move it around, it's on wheels. You did a beautiful job with this, and I appreciate the labels.
Anyway, why this is here, I'm Susan Robson, Wiscasset Waterfront Committee. And I made a little outline or timeline of different requests for having some sort of boardwalk to connect the two piers. And it started, so we've heard that repeatedly on the committee. We've done just some documentation of when things happened, the bike head plan, I think over here in 2016, there was wanting to enhance the waterfront and walkability and different things have come up over the years. So we had the The last plan with the grant in 2015 was the boardwalk preliminary design report done by Wright Piers to identify how we could connect the two piers. They came up with 3 plans. None of the plans were really what we were looking for. So as time has gone on, we've come up with this sort of idea and done a little more investigating as far as the possibility of it coming to fruition. So,
It's beautiful.
thank you, thank you. And he can answer lots of questions.
We are complying with the repeated recommendations for a walkway by the selectmen. This isn't something we came up with. It was something that you folks, not you personally perhaps, but other selectmen have requested over the years. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words. We figure this is worth about 1,100. And what's new is that which is in yellow. The piers are to scale. Nothing else is. So this is approximately 600 feet to connect the piers. Now, outboard of this to the low water line, running along the low tide line, probably 6 to 8 feet in on the mud, and about 20 feet long, is a section where sandworms are harvested. There's nothing else in here that belongs to DMR's control. In other words, there's no clams, there's no shellfish of any other kind, there's no spawning grounds, there's nothing but mud. There's not even eelgrass. So it looks like this could be a go as far as DMR is concerned. We've had some discussions on this concept with a gentleman from Proc, and he said this can be done. Even if there's ledge, the pilings can be driven so that they will support this. This is the recommendation of the committee to increase the size of the Creamery Pier, Main Street Pier, by filling in that section that now is no longer not there, and then connecting the 2 piers.
Very impressive. Thank you.
Very
That really
impressive.
is.
Do we have any idea what we're talking about for dollars to be able to?
Oh, at least $1 million or more.
Oh, well, I'll write a check tomorrow.
And we got a little email from someone that said that if we get a grant for half, which is typical, that if the town went out for a bond for $500,000 over 20 years, it would cost each taxpayer about $17 a year for those 20 years.
Okay.
Of course, I'm sure there's people in town that don't care a hoot about the waterfront, but that was his estimate.
Okay. Does any of the board members have any questions or comments?
What's next?
That's a good question.
Money.
May I ask you? Where would you like us as a committee to proceed, if anywhere, on this project? This is our recommendation to you, and that's what we do as far as our committee is concerned.
Isn't some of that property owned privately?
There's this, what the advantage of this is, it gets away from the abutters. Haggett owns this, Shell Rust owns down here, and the Wright Pierce study, which had a walkway along the railroad tracks, and also another walkway, was vehemently opposed by the abutters because it was on their property. This is not on anyone's property except the state. The state owns the land below them.
I thought some of those deeds went to low water mark.
That I couldn't tell you.
Well, I'm pretty sure
But
that the
here
bird garage.
you've got this pier in that location, You've got this pier in that location, you've got a parking lot here. So other structures, or these structures, have been constructed in those areas.
That's not my point.
I realize that, but what I'm saying is, if you can put these here, why not this?
I'm saying that they're private property.
Well, can we find out for sure? Like if we're, like you have an ID and you're not sure, could we find out for sure and then get some information?
Well, the deeds would be able to point that out on the property.
I'm quite sure that of their garage, that deed goes to low water mark. It used to be my grandparents, that's why. I don't know about the other deeds, but that one goes to low water mark.
I guess we would need to find out if it's possible,
Yeah,
right? And then I guess talk about funding it.
yeah, I think we need to make sure that the property owners, that we're not stepping on anybody's toes, that we can do this. Yes, Bob?
Well, along that vein, do we incur some liability by blocking their access to the water in these other properties? Well, yeah, I realize
I don't know, that's a good question. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I guess I'm thinking if somebody owned a piece of property in there and they had some future plan for putting, you know, some kind of facility there, that this would preempt that.
Like a dock or something?
Yeah.
So would that be, like, how do we find out if it's possible? They've done this and brought in, do they need to go back and find out the legal stuff, or do we do that? I don't know.
We have the deeds to the properties, so we certainly could pull all of the deeds on that property to answer the question as to whether it goes to low water. As to whether or not it's legally permissible, I guess we would have to. Have you had any conversations with the DEP on the permitting process, Dick, or?
No,
Okay.
no, much to it. This is just a concept,
Yep.
Right.
and, you know, you may reject it in whole, or you may want to redesign it or something. So we're just complying with the selectmen's requests
Yeah.
on this boardwalk. That doesn't say it's the way it's going to be.
I mean, I think it's a good concept. I like it. And it's something that townspeople have always wanted. They've talked about connecting the two piers.
Yes, it's been kicked around for quite a number of
Yes,
years.
but I think we have to dot our i's and cross our t's and make sure it's something.
Well, that would
we
be
can
the
do.
process going forward.
Right.
Whether you hire a contractor to do the DEP permitting and find out from DNR if they have any interest, and then without doing that, you can't go forward. But I mean, those are the first steps I would think that you do, such as you mentioned, the checking the deeds. Those are steps you do in follow-up after this.
And I'm wondering about the walkway, something you touched on, the property owners. Is that going to hinder their view? I mean, people who.
Until we look at the deeds
Right.
to see whether it goes to the low
Right.
water mark, but at least one of the properties
Because most people who
does.
buy on water don't want it obstructed if all possible.
Sure.
I mean, that's another thing
Yeah.
that we need to look at.
Yeah, there's many items that
Yes, there's very many items. that
stand
we-
between this and that
Yes.
completion.
But I congratulate you on this. It's very, very nice. It's a good concept.
This was a very nice presentation.
Very good presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So this is the type of thing that if you would need money, right, to just even do the feasibility study, so
Right.
this would go into the warrant, that would go,
We
this
would
would
have
go
to
into the
go
budget for next
For
year.
the budget. We can do some of the preliminary, like the deeds and that right now, that we can find out how far we can go, even check.
If it even makes sense to
Right,
put it in the
even-
budget. and
Right,
see
but it would have to go in the budget to the townspeople. Definitely.
I wonder if it could go together with an article for planning for the White's Island thing, which is gonna get postponed for a
It's
year.
possible. It's gonna depend on where we are at that point, I think. Does any of the board have any other questions or comments at this time? Okay.
Other than just
Oh, I'm
thank
sorry,
you very
Judy
much.
Flanagan has something. Yes, Judy?
I think the concerns that were expressed were legitimate and they do need to be answered. My question is, what now? Which is what you said. Are you saying, okay, we will look into it, you will look into it, they will look into it? What's the direction now that you're suggesting?
Right, and when would we look into it by? Like, if we're gonna look into it, can we do it by the next meeting, or do we enter into a month?
I can have the deed information for next Tuesday, that's easy enough to acquire, that's not difficult. As far as a feasibility study, that has a fiscal note to it and would require town meeting approval to spend the funds. But we certainly can look at the deeds. I can have those as part of your packet for the next meeting. You can look at those. Funding sources, that's always a project that we're continually exploring those opportunities, as you know.
So if it looks like it is feasible, right, let's pretend it looks good and all those property owners want nothing more than to have this boardwalk in their, out the back kitchen window. Say it all looks good, would it be the role of the waterfront committee to put together their budget and proposed funding to submit to us? Like, who does that?
If you did a feasibility study, in part of that study would be the budget. That's part of what the study would do, would tell you, give you cost estimates and things like that. And so then that would come back to the Board of Selectmen.
But the feasibility study would cost money, so that would have to go in the 2019 warrant.
Right.
And then we would be looking at the 2020 warrant to actually maybe vote on doing it. So like it's out 2 years at least.
I'd say that's an ambitious schedule.
Yeah.
I would think that you'd need full permitting on that boardwalk, so we know what we've been through with just the short permit that we're working on now, so definitely would be at least that time frame.
Does that sound like what you guys were thinking?
We were just presenting
Yeah.
this concept. I would expect you to tell us if there's anything further you would like us to do. If not, then our job is finished.
Bob, you had something to say?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned the access, and you mentioned the view, which is something totally different, and I think it's could be a concern, but aren't those the kind of questions that we could ask the MMA for some sort of a recommendation for free?
Oh, yes,
I
definitely.
mean, and I realize several other things were brought up, but I'm just talking about a couple things there that I think could be.
I think the first thing has to be done is the deeds, because that may end it right there. We may not have to be able, we might not be able to go any further if they own to low water or depending on what the deeds say. And then take it from there. I think that's where we're
If
at.
they own to low water, then the boardwalk should be like a big arc. I'm just kidding.
I hope so.
Like a rainbow.
I hope so. But thank you very much. It was a beautiful presentation.
Can we keep your model for a little bit to
Please.
share with folks?
Would you like us to bring it up to the center so people can look at it there? Or
Oh, no, I think we can make a spot for it here.
We'll make it right
With
here.
your permission.
It's all yours.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, the next is unfinished business, personal property real estate tax update. That is going to be postponed until November 13th.
The personal property section of it, the
Yes.
real estate part of it, we're ready to go this evening.
Okay.
The personal property part, the tax collector wanted to do a little bit more work before presenting to the board, so. But the real estate is, Bernice is ready to go with the real estate. You'll see in your packet, the list of the foreclosed real estate. And Bernice, I'll let you take the lead on this. Bernice has researched all of the payment agreements that the town had. She sent letters to all of the folks that are on here to let them know this would be an item for discussion this evening. She's put a lot of time and effort into this, and so thank you, Bernice.
Okay, Denise.
So I guess we'll just go down one by one and establish, first of all, you folks received the response that we got back from MMA in your packet regarding payment on tax acquired properties.
Yes.
And all of these properties were officially tax acquired in 2015, for the 2015 tax lien. So the first one is Abbott, Mary Lee, and it's at 51 Old Ferry Road. There's land and home. They owe from 2007 to present, and you can read for yourself what their outstanding balance is, which does include interest, and when their last payment was. They have been making regular payments of $100, but as you can see, what the time frame is at that rate, how long it would take for them to get paid off. And that's to get paid off just what's currently owed, not including any new taxes that are assessed each year. I don't know if Mary is here.
I'm sorry, did you say does or doesn't include interest?
It does.
It does, thank you.
It does. And it is only for the first half of the 18 taxes as well, because they technically weren't delinquent when we put this together on the 29th of October. So I guess my question to the board is, this particular person does not have one of the installment contracts that were done up back in 2013. I know it is their primary home, and if there's nothing the board wants to do, I just want to make the board aware of what there is for outstanding that technically the town has foreclosed upon, although we haven't taken possession of.
And you say they're making regular payments on that?
They are making a regular payment of $100 a month, yes.
Okay.
Okay, which isn't covering, which is barely covering a year's worth of taxes. Never mind the prior year's taxes that are owed from 2007 to current.
And they don't have an agreement with the town?
We do not have an agreement with them, no. But she has been making a payment.
Okay.
Okay. So the next one is a Shannon Adams, which is at 970 Gardner Road. It was formerly owned and liened in Naomi Reed's name. And this one is 2008 to present that's owed, and there's been no payment made on it since 2017. And it is just a mobile home.
There's no land involved?
Not with this one, no.
So they must be renting the land?
It's in a, yeah.
Trailer park?
Yep.
Right.
And they don't have another piece of property underneath their name, at least. That's one of the hazards of doing those installment contracts, because we do have a couple of them that were originally done in the previous owner's name, and as we know, if a mobile home is sold, there isn't a deed recorded at the registry. There's usually just a bill of sale required. So when a deed is recorded at the registry, typically it goes through a realtor or an attorney, and they make sure the taxes are paid before that transfer happens. But if it's a mobile home, that doesn't happen. It usually just transfers with a bill of sale. And sometimes we get the bill of sale and sometimes we don't. If the landowners or the trailer owners, mobile home owners don't bring a copy of that in to us.
I'm wondering if it would be worth our while to send some type of a letter to
Well, I
them.
was gonna, rather than go through every one of these, do you have a recommendation?
It appears this is where their primary residence is, and I know the board has no wish to remove anybody from their primary residence. I mean, we can continue to send out notices asking them to come and pay something. It already has gone to lien and it has foreclosed. So typically the next action is the town will take it and put it out for sale.
Well, I think we went through this before with the properties we decided to, Ben, if I'm not mistaken, dealing with just the land. Is that something we want to consider again?
If it was a land or a business,
Yes.
we did.
And we have several of them on here. You have Marcia and David Brown. But they are making payments on it. It looks like they're at least trying to pay, even on the land.
Well, some of them, so
Scott
if,
Connors. Yeah, Scott Connors, okay.
so the next one on the list is Mary Nasdaq, who I know is here. She came in and made a large payment today. One of the things that we did, she and I sat down and worked, she did have one of those installment contracts for her 9, 10, and 11 taxes. One thing that apparently, I'm not sure if it was well emphasized or what, these installment contracts were basically, I drew a line in the sand and said, you owe us from this point back X number of dollars, and you can pay us $7,500, whatever the agreement was, per month. Beyond that, they were supposed to keep their current taxes current, and most of them haven't. However, it did say that they didn't have to pay interest on those year's taxes if they were current. Now, Mary and I sat down with hers today. She did pay over $900 in interest during that time frame. And one of the questions that she would like to ask the board, and you can jump in, Mary, and I'll keep talking for you, is if we would consider taking that interest and applying it to her principal, since she has been faithful in making those payments each month, and she probably, depending upon how you want to read these, she wasn't fulfilling it completely because she wasn't keeping the current, but she was making her monthly payment as required per the agreement. So, and I believe she was also interested in doing another installment contract of some sort for what she currently owes.
Okay.
So I would like direction from the board whether or not they feel that the interest of $912.87 should be removed off interest and put towards the principal of her outstanding taxes that she still has, and if you want to sign another installment contract. Hers is a land and a home, so if it did transfer, it would be through a deed versus it being just a bill of sale for a mobile home. So I'm looking for direction from the board specifically on that one.
What do you think, Don?
Just on the face of it, I would say it makes a huge difference whether somebody's making payments or has totally ignored this for years. I'm not sure that it's all clear here. You've made it clear. But if somebody has been making their payment regularly, to me, that's very important.
So what is the board's thought about the $900?
$912.87 that was applied to interest that, depending upon how you interpret the installment contract, should have been applied to principal.
I would say apply it to the principal.
I agree.
For all of them?
Just for Marion at this point.
I just have one thing that's been very, very frustrating for me. When I come in and I've always asked for printout, I don't understand why this isn't coming down. It wasn't until my daughter said, call the treasury, find out how much you got paid, and it listed what years, and when I'm like, wow, this is what I've been looking for. And every time I come in, it's the computer system. It's a computer system. I can show you, I have all my, I keep all this. It was very frustrating for me, very frustrating. So it's not that I want anything else, and I want to be caught up. I want to be so that when the taxes due, they're going to be paid.
Right.
But one thing she explained to me today, which for some reason was paying off that balance, but also paying future taxes, because I said, well, gee, why can't you pay for future along with paying off that? That was something, so it's just a matter of the wording of that contract.
Right. What is your opinion, Grace? What do you feel?
I feel that we should take the interest that has been applied to interest and move it to principal. I personally do not like the installment contracts just because they are not trouble-free. However, as Bobby pointed out, she has been very faithful in making payments, and I think they would be a good choice to continue a payment arrangement with Marion.
I agree. How does the board feel? Okay.
Definitely. Can we go about this, I'm in favor of that, but
okay.
Can we go about this a little differently? That there are obviously a bunch of people who have not been.
Correct, but I guess I need direction from each
Well,
one
I
of these
think
that,
that we need to, let's take the ones where people have not honored their contract. Give them 2-3 months to pay up, whatever. If they don't, we sell the property.
But, Mary and ASDOT, we have taken care of. We agree that we will, take the $912 and put that towards the principal. Do we agree to that as a board? Okay.
and do you want to sign a new contract with her?
She went on.
I would say yes. I mean, she's faithfully making her payments, and I say yes.
The other question that came about on the contracts that we have is that it forgives them interest from here going, as long as they pay regularly. And as Marion pointed out, the townspeople vote for interest to be charged. So are you okay with leaving that clause in the installment contracts, that from this point back, today is what you owe, and that's what your installment contract is, with no more interest added to it?
Yeah. But anything from today on
Correct.
would be interest.
Correct.
No, I have no problem with that.
For the taxes, like if we do an installment contract with Marion, that we do it for, the first half of 18, and she owes part of 15, which will be taken care of by this interest credit, that she wouldn't pay any interest on whatever that dollar amount is, and that if she's not paid up on her second half of the 18 in time, there would be interest accruing on that.
Now I'm getting confused.
So this was my comment to her niece. At town meeting, you have a warrant article every year that sets the interest rate on taxes. I do not believe the board has the authority to waive that interest. And also, if you have someone who's making their payments, which certainly she's done her due diligence, and is always very gracious when she comes in. But if you're forgiving her interest from 2015, then are you not also obligated to do it for everyone who's paying 2015? How can you waive interest for one individual when town meeting set the rate and not for all? And that's my question, is I don't want us to get into a legal quagmire when you have a warrant article that says the interest rate is X.
Oh, I was just gonna say, is there another way for her to seek some relief, like by applying for some other sort of abatement or something else?
We're going to have that conversation about if there is something else that we can do. I'm not sure, Bernice, did we check to see if this one had a homestead exemption
Yes,
too?
it does.
We've been trying to do that on all of them. I mean, I certainly would encourage us to continue to work with Marion. I'm just not sure that we can legally waive the interest. That's my concern.
So you just want it waived on the 2018? Is that what you're asking?
Not
No.
waived, just reapply. Is that what you're saying? Like apply it to principal for now, but the
The
interest.
$900 and from previous was interest charged, but these agreements that were made up by Maine Municipal, they weren't something that we pulled out of the air. And it says in here that it includes interest and whatever through this certain point. But then it goes on to say, if the taxpayer does not default in his or her payments under the agreement, then no further interest shall accrue on the taxes which have been assessed as of this date. However, should the taxpayer default in the payments due under the agreement, then the town shall have the right in its sole discretion to begin charging additional interest on the taxes at the given rate.
We have the right at our sole discretion to charge additional.
If they become delinquent.
So do we
but-
also have the right at our sole discretion to not, or?
So I guess what I would like to suggest before we spend a lot of time on the interest question is let us ask MMA that question specifically as to whether or not the board has that authority. Because as you know, when 30-day notices go out, the amount that has to be paid is the interest for that 30 days and all the fees. So you charge interest then, and then you continue to charge the interest. So I certainly would support another agreement, but let's get clarification on the interest.
Okay.
Okay.
Mary, you okay with that?
I just have one other question. Is the interest also charged on the fees that you present? It's been very complicated for me to read these printouts, very, I mean, I'm not an uneducated person, but thank goodness that she's helped me the last couple of days, because now I can see, okay, this is what, yeah, that's understandable. But when I have seen printouts, when I come in and pay, I'm like, what is this? Where does it state that I made this payment? And it's very complicated, and they said, well, it's the system. Well, I understand that you got a new system, but it shouldn't be, as a resident, that I've been here since '73, I haven't, and I'm a Mainer, but I shouldn't have to be second guessing, and I shouldn't have to be bothering everybody saying, I'm stupid, I don't know what my payments are going for. But I also like to know why, if interest is being charged on the fee, not the interest on what the tax bill is, but on the fee.
It's being charged just on principal.
No, I'm talking about the fees, like when you send the certified letters and the fees that you have, are you being charged interest on that too?
No.
No.
I
Just on
can't tell.
principal.
Well, it shouldn't be, but to be honest, I just want to ask that
No,
question.
it's just on the principal that's outstanding. It doesn't
Okay.
charge it on the
That's
fees,
what I
it
wanted.
doesn't compound interest.
Okay. Thank you.
Bernice, let me make sure I clarify something. It's been a while since I've done this. You have an agreement, you're behind so many years on your taxes. You go into this agreement. From the day you go into this agreement, let's say they owe 2 years, 2 years taxes. There's no more interest on that money?
Per these agreements, correct. There's a line drawn in the sand and you pay.
There's no more interest.
We backdate the date to the date this is signed, so there's no more interest accruing on it.
Okay. So her past taxes, she's not accruing any interest on at all?
She is now, yes. From 2011, this agreement was only for 9, 10, and 11.
Okay.
So interest has been accruing on 12 and forward because she didn't have another agreement. But what I'm saying is that $900 was interest that she paid on taxes that she paid for 9, 10, and 11. And we drew a line in the sand and said, this is what you were supposed to pay us for those years with no extra interest added. And there was the $900 in interest added to her agreement.
Then I agree with Mary, and I think we need clarification from MMA on this one. Because now, basically, she's right, we're asking to not charge interest from 11 to now. I mean, if we...
It would be 15 from now, because she's paid up through, she's got, well, if we apply this interest, which I'm understanding the board is still in agreement to apply
Yes.
that interest, she would have 16, 17, and 18's taxes to still be paying on.
Okay.
And there would be interest accruing on that unless you sign this agreement and it still has that clause in it.
And is it part of the agreement also they have to be current?
They have to keep their current taxes current. It says clearly on this agreement that you owe X number of dollars for these given year's taxes. And you need to make payments of whatever the amount is to pay off that. And it also says that the taxpayer shall also pay to the town all taxes assessed against the property during the term of this agreement, plus statutory charges and accrued interest. And the interest on the taxes assessed during the term of this agreement shall not abate, but shall continue to accrue. So with what she had before, she had 9, 10, and 11, there shouldn't have been any interest applied on that per this agreement because she wasn't in default.
Right.
But yet, her other year's taxes that were not part of this agreement, there was still interest accruing on.
Okay. This is confusing.
It is, which is why I don't like the installment contracts.
Very confusing. But yes, Catherine?
I was going to say the contracts, I'm listening to her read some of it, perhaps that needs to be simplified somehow. I don't know how they're going to do it, but
Yeah,
I
well,
mean,
these
you
are-
have to be a CPA practically to figure out what
Right.
they're talking about.
These are MMA's contracts. I'll look to see if the newer ones are any different than these ones, but they're very similar. So at this point, I will take the $900, apply it to a principal, and we'll get more information, Mary or I will get more information from MMA as to whether we want to continue doing these installment contracts.
Right.
Okay?
And I think we need to know if we can.
Right.
Right, because basically the way I interpret it is, if someone has an agreement, you're waiving the interest. But if you didn't have an agreement and you come in the door to pay your taxes for 15, we charge you interest. And I don't know if that's legal. That's the question that I have. I don't know if we should, if we can do that.
Especially when we have a warrant article saying that we are charging interest.
Right. Well, they're paying interest from whenever they owe until the agreement is. So she had interest already accruing on the 9, 10, 11 when she signed that agreement.
Right.
When we made the agreement, it wasn't just for the principal, it was for what she had in accrued interest and costs and principal to that point in time.
But then it stopped.
But then it stops, exactly.
So we'll get clarification on that, and maybe what we'll do is bring a draft agreement back to you for your feedback on things that you might like to see differently.
All right. How does the board feel about that?
I know there are a couple of others on this list that have contacted either Molly or I yesterday and today that are also interested in signing some sort of agreement. So the next one, we already, there was an abatement. Sorry?
We have to go through every single one of these.
Is there certain ones on here that are more important than others?
I guess that's up to the board's discretion based on what's outstanding and whether they're land or buildings or how you want to do this.
We want to talk
Or
about
if any of the
that.
people that we contacted are actually here.
I was going to say, is there anyone else here that has been contacted? Yes, sir. Your name, please. Pardon? Okay.
So Mike's is a mobile home. Yours is just a mobile home.
Yes,
And it's in a trailer park.
yes.
Yes. And you owe from 2015 to current, and you haven't made a payment since July of 2017.
Yeah, I paid $3,000 in,
Okay.
So how could we work with you, sir? What could we do to help you?
Oh, I can set up a payment plan,
Okay?
but I ain't sure how much right now. I was, out of work for 7.5 years. I've gone through hell in the last 10 years. And it's just been recently, 2.5 years that I've been able to get back to work, get things squared away. Like I was supposed to pay you guys $3,500 last time, 2 weeks, a week and a half after I paid you the $3,000, the state of Maine seized all my checking accounts, my daughter's savings accounts and all that. I had to deal with them too for being out of work so long. I'm trying to work ahead to get out of this hole I'm in,
Did we send you a homestead exemption, sir?
What's that?
Did we send you a homestead exemption with the notice that we
Yes,
sent
I
you?
left it on the table.
Okay. If you had that filled out, you wouldn't owe taxes each year.
I went over this year?
Oh, you can't go retroactive.
Right.
But you're entitled, if you're a Maine resident and you meet all of the qualifications on that application,
Right.
that would exempt you from
Yeah, I
paying
did.
taxes at all.
I walked on one time table.
Yeah, but you should fill it out and bring it back to us, and then you wouldn't have a tax bill each year. Because your taxes are less than what the homestead exemption would be.
It seems like we fixed this one.
Yeah.
What's that?
I said, it seems like we fixed this one.
Well, we fix going forward if you'll bring us the application in. But it still owes from 15 to current.
And he spoke about setting up a plan, so if
Correct.
we can come up with the right
If
format.
we can come up with the right format, then we could get
Right.
a payment agreement with you as well,
Yes.
and get that homestead exemption application into us.
You guys just pay it down here?
Yep, fill it out and bring it in. And it won't do anything until next year's tax bill. You still owe what you owe now.
So what I hit on here is totally what I owe this time.
Plus the second half of the 2018 will be due in April, yes.
This one?
Yep, well, there's interest accruing daily.
Right, yeah, I understand.
And then this is only the first half of the 18. This is 12610. It's actually double that, right, in April. Okay, so we will get in touch with you, so we obviously have the correct address. Because you got your mail.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Frances Ford. I'm the mortgage holder on Harold Cole's property here in town.
What property?
Harold Cole, 248 Main Street.
Okay.
I'm here simply to see if the town is going to take any action.
Harold Cole, to our knowledge, is in bankruptcy. And we have not received any final documents to see where he stands with that. We cannot foreclose on the property if it's in bankruptcy. We hoping to get some more information from them to let us know if,
From them, you mean the bankruptcy?
the bankruptcy court, yes, because they don't forgive the property taxes, but they don't let us foreclose on them either. I don't know if he's physically living there. Do you know if he's living there?
He maintains his shop there on the weekends.
He doesn't actually
No,
live
he
there.
lives in Woodbury, Connecticut.
Okay, and you have filed a complaint to foreclose as
Yes.
well, correct?
Yes, yeah.
And do you know where that is?
We're headed to court.
I'm sorry?
You said you know where that is?
Yeah, because that was back in January that was filed, correct?
Right. I think we're heading to trial.
Okay. So at this point, the town really can't do anything much until we find out if the bankruptcy court has released him from this one. But we have notified, obviously, the mortgage holder to keep her.
Because when you said it was discussing your delinquent taxes, I wondered if there was going to be some
But according to this,
specific
you made a
action.
payment.
He does, but he's still in bankruptcy, so we
Okay.
can't foreclose on him.
He's made no payments, he's not entered into any agreement to pay anything on the taxes?
He paid $1,500 on 10/9/18, but he still owes over $16,000.
But he does not have an agreement with the town.
He doesn't have a written agreement, no. He's just been
Okay.
making payments.
No, when you say making payments, he's made one payment, is that it?
I'd have to go back and look for sure just how far back he has made payments. But he did make the payment of $1,500 on the 9th of October, and he also just made another payment on the 5th of November. And I don't know what that amount was,
All right,
but I can certainly get that for you.
okay, thank you.
So I would suggest the board take no action on this one until we get more clarification on the bankruptcy court.
Okay. Is there anyone else here? Okay.
David, did you want to speak to the board or no?
Just that, I'm expecting in the near future a settlement from some property, family property that got sold down in Massachusetts, and my attorney down there tells me that he's gonna be on the horn to me the instant he hears, because it's gotta go through him. And as soon as I get it, the town of Wiscasset gets what I owe the town of Wiscasset to the penny. So.
And you are-
That might be a matter of some weeks, or it might be tomorrow, I'm really not certain. I'm just waiting to hear, and as soon as I get it, Wiscasset gets theirs.
But you are making payments?
Yes.
Okay. Like I said, if you're making payments, I'm not,
They've not been regular, and he does have an installment contract.
okay. What about the 3 properties for Scott Connors?
The 3 properties for Scott Corners are not his primary residence. One of them, he's not paid anything on at all, from what I understand. It's just the bottom one there, account 114. It's just an older mobile home. He's not paid on that since July of 14. Ray Soul is also the mortgage holder on these 3 pieces of property, and I've talked to Ray a few times. His understanding is that there was nobody living there. However, when Molly and I researched, there is somebody that has registered a vehicle with that address. So I don't know if it's a rental of his or who's living there. The other 2 properties, one is just land, the account 2313, which is his first one. He's been making $100 a month. He does have an installment contract. However, he's not kept the current taxes current. Nor this next one, which is also land and a building. So I would think that the board would want to do something with those properties.
They do belong to us, am I correct?
They technically do, yes, because we have foreclosed on them.
List them for sale?
I think I'd like to send a letter to them telling them we
I
are
was just
going.
gonna ask, so, it looks like the last payment was fairly recent.
He made a payment just on Monday.
And has he been regular at whatever intervals he's supposed
For
to
the
pay?
$100 a month, he's been regular, yes, but that was for only the 2009, 10, and 11 taxes again. He's made, and as you can see, he owes, one of them he owes 13 to present, 15 to present, and 13 to present. And he actually only has installment contracts for the 2 that he's making payments on.
But I think it does make a difference if he's making regular payments. I mean, maybe we need to adjust these amounts.
Well, he's not keeping the current. The agreement says he's supposed to keep the current.
Oh, I understand
This is
that.
just to,
But I mean, if he's making payments, to me, that does make quite a difference, that, as opposed to somebody that just blows it off.
The other thing is the 459 Lowell Town Road, there's also somebody registered a vehicle here with that address. So I don't know if these are rental properties that he's making money from that he should be paying the taxes on, or what. And the other one was 20 Dirt Way and 459 Lowell Town Road. But all told, he owes over $12,000 to the town.
The one at 459 Lowell Town Road, that's a rental property?
It's a land in a building, and like I said, when we researched,
It's a
that
rental
address.
property. And that's the one that Ray Soul is involved in?
Ray is the mortgage holder on all 3 of these.
I believe that is a rental property.
I wouldn't be as surprised that the other one is too. It's just a mobile home it's actually on the same piece of property as 35C, R135C, and R135CO2. It's in that same general area.
I think that building might be derelict.
Do you?
I think, if it's the one I'm thinking about.
Okay.
The other, I think I know where the other one is too. I'm not right up on the addresses, but I believe Judy's right. I think that is a rental. I think the other one might be derelict.
Okay.
I think we need to know a little bit more on any of these before I'd be comfortable taking action, especially if somebody is making the payments. I would hope that if the payments aren't making any progress on the total, that maybe we
And
could...
they're not.
Obviously, but if they are making regular payments, maybe we could talk to them about making a larger payment that wouldn't have an impact. If somebody isn't making a payment at all, then probably that'd be a waste of time.
When you look at, on the next page, at Devano LLC.
That's already owned by the town.
Huh?
It's already owned by the town, and the note on the account, when you pull up that account, says that the town was considering selling it.
I think we should
It's
sell
on
it.
Bath Road.
I think we should sell it.
I agree.
This is land only.
Yeah, land only.
Yep, it's actually 1.55 acres on Bath Road. And it's not even been assessed since 2013. It's been in our name. These are just the 10, 11, and 12 taxes that are still sitting there unpaid.
How much land was it? I missed what you said.
1.55 acres.
I was gonna say, that's why I was looking at you.
I thought we sold that. I'm pretty sure we did, to the Shell station, the owners that own that building.
What was the piece next door?
Right, is that the one we're talking about, the one right next door to it?
Didn't they cut down all the trees on that
Yeah,
property?
exactly. And that's why that name rang a bell.
Devono.
Yeah, and I think it was,
If I think you're right. I think we sold that to them.
they're not paying taxes on it?
Hasn't been assessed to anybody because it's
But
been on the town's name.
It's a different corporation, it's not Devano.
No, that's who owned it when we went to lien on the taxes for 2010, 11, and 12.
Right, and we've sold it I think in 2014, 2015, somewhere, maybe.
Well, I guess we need to find out.
I can look it up and let you know.
Okay, who might,
Yeah.
I can't see. Who'll be talking to?
Sherry.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Sharon, thank you.
Well, I think that one, we should be taxing somebody, but it looks like that one's
Yeah.
not taking care of itself.
Okay.
I guess the other big one, and the guy has been making payments, the Raymond Franzen on 120 Clark's Point Road is where that house is. And he owes from 2013 to present to the tune of $82,000 plus. He has been making regular payments.
It's not his primary residence.
No.
Well, if he's sticking with the agreement that he signed with us,
But again, he's not paying, I mean, his taxes each year.
he's not staying current.
No. His taxes each year are over $15,000. So if he's paying $553 a month to catch up with $82,000 and his taxes are $15,000 a year.
He's never gonna get caught up.
No, and there's no mortgage holder that we could find the deeds on this one to notify when we send out the lien either.
And he has an out-of-state address for this?
No, he actually has 120 Clark's Point Road.
So we must live, then this must be his primary residence.
Well, it sounds like that might be another one that, I mean, this gentleman obviously has stuck with the agreement. We perhaps need to,
He does have a homestead exemption, so it is his primary.
I mean, we need to see if he can't make a larger payment, so we'll have an impact on this.
And stay current.
That's it,
Pay
yeah.
the current.
Or current,
Well, pay the current taxes plus have the agreement.
Yeah, because the agreement was signed back on 5/18/2013 for $553, and he owed us over $40,000 then, and now he owes us over $80,000.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what the board wishes to do with that
Look
one.
at me, I wasn't on the board. Do we have the authority to change these agreements?
Well, it doesn't last forever, right?
No,
It's a yearly thing, I thought.
It's after so.
it depends on, his was for just, it says it was just for the 2010 year, which can't be correct because he didn't owe $40,000 for just the 2010 year. But currently he owes us 2013 forward.
So the agreement doesn't cover those.
No.
So he
does not have an agreement,
He
really.
had an agreement,
He
right,
had
and
an
he is
agreement.
just continuing to pay that same amount, but his taxes, of course, as everybody else's, has increased each year, and he's never gotten caught up.
So maybe we could send him a letter to invite him to come in and talk with us. And
We sent him the letter we sent everybody else that was on his list.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
does
but
he want-
at this point in time, does the property belong to Wiscasset?
Yes,
It belongs to the town.
yes, because we foreclosed in 2015 taxes.
I think you said, but I missed it. What are the taxes on that property per year?
15,000,
15,000 a year?
yeah. They have been since 16, that much. They were.
Is it a large tract of land or on the water? or
It
what?
is a pretty good sized house and it is 35 acres. And as I said, there's no mortgage holder on it.
There's no mortgage holder?
None that we found at the registry, no.
Well, I'm wondering if it'd be worth the while to send him a registered letter stating the fact that he does not have an agreement with the town at this point in time. And I don't know how we can word it, basically that the town, we do own his property, and we would like to work with him and see if we can get more money out of him. Because in another year, he's gonna owe us another $15,000 and.
Right.
Well, with the interest on this, he's gonna owe a lot more than that.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, he's not accomplishing anything at this point.
No. I mean, right now he owes us over $9,000 in interest.
Well, from the letter that he got, he would have known what the total
Absolutely, the
Okay,
letters that
yeah.
I sent out, it listed what they owed each year, what the principal, the interest, the cost.
Okay,
the
no, I just
total
didn't
was.
know what you'd sent.
Yeah, no,
but
this is
that-
what we sent
yeah.
out. And also told them that they were meeting tonight, the board, to discuss this if they chose to come, and I gave our phone number to call. The only other person that we have gotten a contact from was, where is he? I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, it's RZYCKI. Yeah, I don't know how you pronounce that name.
I think it's just Richard.
What's that?
I don't know.
Zicky.
Yeah.
Well,
He did send us an email and asked if he could do a payment arrangement of $300 from November to April, and then $600 a month from May to October during the summer months.
okay.
And he does, his address is the 195 Birch Point Road now, although he owes us over $6,000 as well.
I'm more concerned about the guy that owes us $82,000.
Yep.
Wonder what we can do to stimulate him to start paying his taxes.
Well, you've also got, and this is one that does have an installment contract as well, is the Kimberly Delano. She owes in 2012. And she is making payments sporadically.
She's not making them every month.
No,
That's a lot of money.
it is, it's just a mobile home.
What are the taxes a year over there? Do you have that right in front of you?
Yep, I do. It's that one does have a mortgage on it, and they have contacted us, but were appalled at how much was owed on it. The taxes are a little over $1,000 a year on it.
I'm just a trailer?
On just, it's a double wide. It's a newer double wide.
Okay.
And that's
she does-
trailer only, no land.
That's just the trailer only, no land, and she does have a homestead exemption. But the trailer is, the mobile home double wide is assessed at $77,500, so it's taxed on $57,500. So the taxes are over $1,100. So, I mean, we didn't, any of these people that did not have a homestead exemption and did have a Wiscasset address, we sent them a homestead exemption as we did Mr. Pinkham to encourage them to get it filled out and bring it in, whether they do or not, I don't know.
Does Kimberly Delano have an agreement with the
She
town?
did have one, yes.
Is that,
None of these have been done new, they were all done in 2013.
Well, it sounds like if the agreements are out of date, maybe we just need to, like, I mean, this is the first step, but could we issue new agreements, once we settle on an agreement, issue new agreements to these people and start?
I think we need
like,
to
we let
send-
it slide for 5 years.
I think we need to send them a letter stating the fact that the agreement has lapsed. And that, you know, we do want to work with them as best as we can and help them. And to come in and talk to Bernice or someone in the town office to make an arrangement for a payment plan or another agreement somehow.
See, hers was for
And maybe
Kimberly's.
stressed the fact that we don't want to take their property.
Exactly.
But, you know, we just can't continue the way we're going.
Right. Kimberly's was for 2004 to 2011, and she was supposed to be $217 a month. She has paid her 2004 through her 2011, but she hasn't paid anything on 2012 to speak of.
So she hasn't paid taxes for 6 years?
Or she only owes for that 1 year?
No, she owes from that year forward.
Yeah. So she owes for 6 years, is basically what she does.
Yeah. Technically 7, because she owes 12. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18.
Okay. All right, so I don't want to sit here and go through every single one of these. I know, Ben, you keep looking at me.
Well, I think we have clear direction from the board to reach out to those folks that have agreements, to let them know they've expired, and also to reach out to the gentleman that has the very large $82,000 amount. So we will be a little more aggressive, and then if we're not successful, we will come back before you and ask for.
Well, I'd like to know what we can do before we go on to something else. The people who do not have an agreement, who on this list does not have an agreement?
Well, I can tell you better who does.
Well,
I still think we should concentrate on those who have agreements but who have failed to live up to them. There's many people here who have been taken 3 or 40 years. They've made no attempt. We should let them know that. Give them a time period and we will foreclose if they don't.
that's where I'm headed. That's where I was headed.
And everyone else who's making payments, we'll
Those
deal
are
with
making-
them, but take care of the delinquents first.
Right, that's why I'm looking at this and I'm seeing that some of them haven't been making any payments
No.
whatsoever.
No. The other one that did call today was Cody Haggett. And he wants to do a payment arrangement as well, to kind of give us a couple $100 a week to get caught up.
That's the kind of agreement that makes sense.
That's good.
But his also is a contingent lot. He thought the mortgage company was paying on it, which we've been sending the tax lien notices, so we knew that they weren't. But I talked to Ellery and we did get the form that you folks have authorized to be able to combine 2 lots together once the taxes are current, so that he can do that as well.
I don't know.
Go ahead.
You know, Covalinka, is that the municipal wonder house?
Yeah. Yes.
How can a piece of property be sold when we foreclose it?
It hasn't sold, it's airship property. It says
It
it
has
here.
sold.
Is that maybe the house on?
This one is
Lee
16
Street?
Lee Street,
Yeah.
that's not the same one we were looking at this
Oh,
afternoon.
okay. That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
And how it gets sold is a quick claim deed, because there is one on here, don't ask me which one it is right now, but there is one that's changed hands, even though we've got liens on it, because it was sold just with a quick claim deed.
But they can't do that, right?
You can do that. I can put my claim on any piece of property that I own.
Okay,
And
but
who
why is
assumed-
it fixed?
Buyer beware. Buyer beware.
All right, so let's see if we're gonna deal with the ones that already have an agreement now, to get them up to date. Those that do not have any agreement and have not made any payments, where do we stand? What do you wanna do?
Well, Ben was pretty clear, send them a letter.
Mine was for those who had agreements who haven't honored them.
Right, that's what I thought you said.
If many people have honored their agreements or made some payments, but some
Right.
have done nothing.
But there's other people out there who've not honored their agreements. There's other people that do not even have an agreement
I think
and are not
anyone-
paying their taxes.
Anyone who doesn't have an agreement should first step, enter into an agreement with us, and then if in 3 or 6 months they're not honoring the agreement, then we.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to
It
do.
almost seems to me that we should have the agreement before we ask somebody to come in. I mean, shouldn't we perhaps wait until we have the agreement in front of us so that we can say,
Yes,
please come in and.
Right.
sign this agreement, bring a checkbook.
Somebody must have some sort of sliding scale somewhere as what would be an appropriate payment for whatever tax bill might be.
Yes.
Yeah, how many years do you want them to be delinquent, is the other thing. I mean, as you can see, some of these, if they keep making the payments that they're making, the
Well,
first
that's
one
where I
that's on
was
this
going,
list,
is
for
let's
instance,
find
is
out.
10 years to be able to get what they owe right now, never mind to keep the,
But that's where I was going with this. Let's, for someone who owes $82,000, let's find out what would be reasonable to pay per month or year, well, what we
I mean, I would think you would want them caught up within 3 years, because that's when the lien matures again.
But wouldn't their payment also be determined by their financial situation?
Yeah, you gotta take that into
You have to
consideration too.
take that into consideration.
So maybe we have to send a letter to give them 10 days to come in and meet with us. And then if they don't respond at all, then we have to take a more aggressive step.
Okay.
But we want an agreement.
Well,
before
it just
we
seems
can-
logical, because the first thing somebody's gonna do when you say you need to come in and sign the agreement is want to come in and sign the agreement, and if we don't have one, then
Makes sense.
we look stupid.
Okay.
Can I just ask about a couple of these? I don't want to drag this on all night, but going to the third page of Gilbert Rhines, this unlivable mobile home. What do we do with something like that?
Ask the assessor to go look at it and change the valuation of it, but it still is owed based on what's there, or what was there when we went to,
Is anybody living in it? Is anybody living in it? Is it abandoned or?
It's just unlivable.
it's what it said. He doesn't live there, he lives somewhere else, if this is the one I'm remembering. So you couldn't get in and talk to the assessor.
Did you have another one, Bob?
Well, yeah, actually, the last one on that same page, the homestead exemption covers the taxes now,
Yeah.
but there's still $2,500 owed.
Which one are you talking about?
The last one on that page, Robert.
Yeah.
Robert, yeah.
Yeah. And she owes in 2005.
Yeah. I don't know, it just seems kind of bizarre that you know, they owe $2,500, they're never gonna be assessed any more taxes. And they probably didn't even own it possibly when these taxes was assessed. I don't know that, but.
So that would be a perfect person to get onto a payment plan, like sign an agreement with us now, if they haven't got one.
Yeah, yeah, if they're serious about keeping the place, even if the payment was small, it would reduce it every month.
Right,
Unlike some of these where it gets worse every month.
right.
Yeah, that seems easy.
I mean, she owes from 2005 to current, and the principal is $1,785.77, and the interest is almost $700, and the costs are almost $700 to come up with that $31.63 that she owes. And she's made no payments.
I think we're looking at Roberts.
Yeah, I was,
Okay.
but,
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were
Yeah,
looking at the very last one on that page.
The
you
last
said.
one on page 3.
The last one.
no, I'm sorry, I'm with you now, but I moved from Gilbert Rhines right down to the bottom of the page, but.
Well, that's
On the, yeah,
what I thought, which is Heidi, right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah, she's made nothing since 2005.
But she does not have an agreement,
No.
so I thought what we were gonna do as the first step is get the people who have no agreement, get them an
And
agreement.
that's
And
mobile home only.
It is, and if she could fill out a homestead exemption, she wouldn't have taxes at all.
Yeah, geez, that is,
Well, you get the one on top of that, Joseph Wade.
He actually came in and made a payment yesterday.
Oh, he did?
He did, and he's now down to $200, and he's gonna come in and pay us $50 a month.
see, I would say you don't even have to worry about him.
Yeah.
Sounds like he's serious about taking care of
He
it.
did come in yesterday and paid.
I think sometimes all you have to do is get a letter and they'll come down and start. So we're gonna just get an agreement together and then take it from there. Is that the understanding?
Yeah, and I'll bring it back to you once we have the new agreement drafted. I'll bring it, just a blank one back to you to have you look at, to see if you have anything you'd like different, and then we'll move forward with entering into new agreements for those that don't have them.
Right, okay.
Are the changes you would make to that agreement that you think would make it better or easier for people to understand?
I don't think it's real clear, as Mary and I discussed earlier, that it is, but it isn't. I mean, it says clearly, this is what you're signing for an agreement right now, that you owe us X number of dollars. And it only stands to reason that you need to keep your current, but it needs to be more specific to say, you need to keep paying me $100 a month to pay the back, but oh, by the way, you need to keep your, and we can split those payments when they bring them in, as long as they tell us what they're doing.
I see, yeah.
So I definitely would like to have that in there.
Probably we need to
put maybe at the very end, this agreement, they're only good for a year. Don't they have to sign, come up with a new one every year? or-
Not, it depends on
or
how
if
many
they
years
end-
you're doing for the taxes. I mean, if they owe $5,000 and you're doing a $75 a month payment,
Okay, yeah, that's.
then it's gonna be longer than a year.
Okay, I didn't know whether they were, had an end date, that was my question.
No, when they're paid off is their
Okay,
end
that
date.
makes sense.
Okay. Are we all set on that discussion? Now, we can go on to holiday lights in the village.
Before we do,
Yes, sir.
down here, this Miles Kittle and Stacy Brewer are on here. And we have an abatement request on here also for $106. Their connection. On the agenda, under 14.
And that's not is good.
Well, it's the same lot, map and lot number.
So the tax abatement is for the tax year 2015. Because the mobile home is no longer on the property. So I would say yes, that would take care of that one.
So instead of giving them the $106, and 60 cents, why don't we take it off that $184.65 they owe us?
I'm just trying to figure out how this is supposed to add up, that's all.
That was not what would just naturally happen.
Well, the difference must be the fees to do that.
I feel like with that whole list, like anybody who can apply for an abatement should, and anyone who gets a homestead exemption should, to clean up our list, because there
Are they
could
gonna
be
get
people
the
who
check
just,
for the $106?
are disabled or something.
No, we're just writing it off as paperwork.
I got the impression that some people, even when they have that form written in their hand, don't quite understand the significance.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So just look, we
So
don't have,
the question is, there's a tax abatement for.
thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marion.
Push that button, Mary, and it should hold it
Well,
open.
hopefully,
There it goes.
okay, good. I know, only because the light out there isn't. Is
No,
there?
there isn't.
You,
Okay, thank you. Do you really pay attention? Come around with me.
There's no reason why we couldn't keep that money, pay the taxes, and write off the.
Right. So
I'm sorry, what was the question?
So in the tax abatement that was prepared by the tax collector
Yes.
for the 2015 year, it says 106.60, but on your, is it related to the amount on your paperwork?
The $106.60 is just the principal. The interest and costs, we don't have to apply those, so we're just abating the principal amount, if that's what you're
But
asking.
you'll take, it'll zero it out.
We'll back it back so that it zeroes itself out, and we're not doing anything for the abatement other than the principal amount.
Okay, that was Ben's question.
Is that the same thing for Robert Greenleaf,
Yes.
Gary Private?
Yes, mine included the interest, and this doesn't, this is just the principal.
So those two will disappear if we
Correct.
approve these, okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Christmas lights.
Holiday lights.
Holiday lights.
I
Just
got
like
it.
putting on.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, they're shaped like trees.
This item was put on the agenda at the request of a board member to discuss. You may remember that we had some comments about the lights in the downtown, and our public works crew does a wonderful job. But we had talked about, before the lights are put up for another season, did we want to decide that we would like to only have white lights in the village? And instead of a mixture in the downtown of colored lights and white lights.
I think they should be white lights.
Like clear. They put colored lights on the big tree.
Yeah. I don't know. Do we have an appearance of the town committee, and can they just decide this?
That's what they decided way back when. That's why they've been clear forever.
Okay.
No, Steve will correct
I know
me.
this is going to be brought up. I've been through the town reports, and not one of you are gonna be able to show anybody that you gotta have a certain color light downtown. That's just somebody's wanted the white lights. There's nothing that's ever been said that, you shall have white lights. So to sit, and say, we made an agreement years ago, if you did it amongst yourselves. It was never in any of the town reports, never in any of the appearance of town committee reports that I've read. I went back 1974 to present, so it doesn't say any of that. So I'm not trying to buy a humbug here, but I'm one of the guys who puts up the lights. And
yes.
Yeah, and I don't see a problem with let's not buy any new lights. So if we bought colored lights last year and put them up, then don't replace them.
What do they
I
usually
would
put on?
donate the lights, the clear lights, so the
Really?
town doesn't have to pay for it.
What did they put up last year?
Just,
well, what we did last year, and this wasn't done by any means to
no, I know. It was-
pee anybody off. The downtown lights, and when I'm talking the downtown lights, I'm talking from the main street up, maybe to the common. We try to stick with the white lights. And last year there was a couple of comments after they were put up that they didn't like the color of some of the white lights because they were LEDs versus the other ones. And sorry, I mean stuff happens. And but we did try to mingle in some colored lights around, and we just did that because let's face it, when you get no direction, and I'm the person that was putting them up, and I'm not here as a spokesman for the town, town garage people, but we get the lights to put up, and we do our best to put them up and to make them to look good, and then the last 2 years we've had to sit here in these meetings and tell us how much asses we have because we can't put up the right colored lights, and I take that personal. And
I think the lights look great every year,
Oh, thank
and
you.
if they're different colors,
I never complained,
that's
Steve.
fine.
No, I'm not trying to pick a fight with anybody. I'm just trying to make a point that there was never anything that ever said that we had to have white lights. So we just try to make it look as nice as we can.
Well, and you do a great job, and that's the reason for the conversation now, is that if the board, and I'm not suggesting one way or the other, but if the board would like to go with the tradition of just white lights in the downtown, that would be fine. I mean, part of the color got brought in because we did have some of our businesses last year that decorated with colored lights, and it looked quite nice. So,
I mean, we will definitely put up, and
whatever
seriously, if
you
you tell us
want.
white lights, we put up white lights. I mean, we're not gonna.
And I will say, some of the lights on the common, we had a couple of people come in, Steve knows, they fussed at us because we did have to buy some new white lights and they didn't match the old white lights, and I mean.
Well, lucky them, if
Yeah.
that's the big complaint, like if your complaint in the world is that the LED lights, which save the town money, so by the way, if you don't like your LED lights, you're never allowed to complain about your taxes in public, that's my opinion. And if they don't match, if that's your big complaint for the world, then lucky you. We just sat here and went over all these people who can't even pay these taxes, and I'm sorry, but whatever. I don't care what color the lights are.
Well, Steve, I haven't said anything publicly about this. I think your history of the Christmas lights is a little shallow. I remember when I first started on the budget committee, I won't mention other names, but we used to have banners down on Main Street. And there was a big argument whether to keep the banners or not. And then for a year or so, the Christmas lights looked like something out of Space Age. They were just laid out there. But for over 40 years now, as you well know, it has been tradition that the town has had white lights, period. And the colored lights on the common.
Well,
And over the years, many households along the area also switched to white lights in their windows. It was a community effort to basically have white lights. My big issue is that after 40 years, the highway crew, if you will, decided we'll throw the tradition out the window and we'll put up the lights that we want to put up. And I do have an issue with that. If there was going to be a change, it should have been, excuse me,
You gotta tell us.
can I speak? If you'd come in and said you were gonna change them, I definitely would have spoke up. I didn't know about them until I rode through town and saw them.
I'm not gonna argue with you. I'm not gonna argue with you. And you're wrong on your 40-year thing, Benny. Prove it to me, and we'll go from there. And if you remember correctly, Benny, when we were kids, think of it now, all the lights downtown were colored lights.
I agree with you, Stephen, I just told you they had changed.
This 40-year thing, no, and I'm not gonna argue with you.
Oh, good, I move we go back to the white lights as we
Well, we're not allowed to vote on it because it wasn't on the agenda to take action.
It is on the agenda.
Not to take action.
Well, holiday lights is on.
I just wanted to say, you know, there used to be a tree out front of the town office, and it always had colored lights on it.
Yes, it did.
But somebody didn't like it, and they cut it down.
that, didn't it?
It sure did.
I personally, I don't care whether they're white, their color, or what they are, as long as they look pretty, that's all I care about. 40 years ago.
And I would welcome some help, I mean, if people wanna come around, it's a lot of work. It's
You know what?
Yes,
I
it
can
is.
bring
a
my
lot
class.
of work to do
I got
that.
kids who can help with that.
Steve, we don't ask you to do it for nothing. I mean, be fair.
What's your point, Benny? What are you asking?
What was your point?
All right, all
I'm
right.
sorry, I couldn't hear.
I'll
It's
talk
late,
to you
I
later.
have stuff to do.
All right, let's stop the bickering back and forth. It's not like
Well, all
children.
right, just for the record, I'm gonna make a motion that the Christmas lights be white, with the exception of the town common.
I'll second it.
Are we allowed to make a motion if it's not printed on the?
Yeah,
It's on there, all
It's
of
on
them.
the
No, but not that we're gonna take action. There's these other places where it says.
As long as it's on the agenda, we can make a motion.
Yeah, you can.
As long as it's on the agenda. All right, we have a motion for white lights downtown and yet colored lights on the common. All those in favor? I'll go with it. Opposed? Two are
Frankly, I
voting.
don't care.
I'm not gonna vote. I think it's a waste of time.
Okay.
Steve, if you do need more lights, I
Two.
need it, I will,
Whatever.
I'm more than happy to.
3 to
contribute.
What was the
0
vote?
to, I don't care.
3 to 2.
3 to 0
Although Bob
and
sort of
2
abstained.
abstentions. Yeah.
302.
All right, thank you.
Yes, Judy. You want
Yeah.
color lights or white lights?
I'm not jumping into that mess.
Good,
But I do have a question. Okay. The chamber puts up lights, they did last year down on the waterfront by their information booth in Santa Claus and they're planning to do it again this year. Do they have to put up, that's town property, do they have to put up white lights?
Come on, Judy.
Well,
No.
this is what,
This is America, Judy.
They can put up whatever they
The
want.
lights you wanna put up.
but I don't want to think, I think that should be clear. That's just on the trees that are going up? Is that on
It's just on either side of me.
businesses decorate the,
The businesses can decorate any way they want. They can put.
out on the sidewalk, they can do what they want. So you're just talking.
You could put
the
blinking
tree,
lights up if you wanted to.
The tree
Oh, God.
that they put up.
See, either side of Main Street
With
coming up,
music.
and that's it. And they always do the big tree in
Yeah,
color,
I just
so.
want that clear, so.
You're fine.
The chamber put up colored lights.
They can
on
put up
top.
color lights. They can
Thank
put up
you.
blue lights, purple lights, whatever the color lights you want.
This is a feisty meeting.
Are we done with lights?
Yeah.
Oh, thank God. MDOT update on LED luminaire in the downtown. We're back on lights again.
I'm sorry. I put them too close together. There's no action needed on this item. I just wanted to share the communication from MDOT regarding the lights. And what I understand is if you look at this picture, one of the lights that they had planned before had like a chimney, a glass chimney inside, and they were unable to stay with that. So they wanted to be sure to bring to the town's attention. Everything else is very similar, it just won't have the glass chimney inside. That was really just information should you get a question about it. So there's no action needed.
I have a question about it. Why can't they put the chimney in there?
I will read you the email, Mr. Morgan. It says they reiterated their concern for damage to the chimney and fixture with no side panels for protection. And their second issue is that testing has shown that the chimney will reflect light laterally and upward, making the fixture no longer full cutoff and therefore not dark skies compliant. MDOT is restricted by Title 23, Section 708, from expending any state funds for lighting that is not full cutoff. Thank you. Thank you for the question.
Okay. Let's go back to the sunken vessel update.
So, thank you, Gina, for this article. And I just wanted to put this in the board's packet for information to let you know what the result of the court hearing was, and to let you know that it is not over. It's continuing to November 26th. So this question gets asked often from our friends in the audience, so I wanted to just bring it up to share the information.
Okay, new business, pole permits, Cushman Point Road and pole permit for Bradford Road, Old Town.
So these pole permits, as you know, you've approved them for many, many years. I did ask the code officer to go out and look at these, and the public works director, to make sure there wouldn't be any impediment to the town, and they both signed off on them. So if the board is so inclined, you can approve these pole permits.
We grant the pole permits to Cushman Point and Bradford Road.
Second. All those in favor? 5-0. Okay, Maine Yankee Covenant.
You may remember from a few meetings past, we had a brief letter in the packet where DEP was requesting to have a change in their monitoring. This is the actual agreement. It has been reviewed by our council, so they have read it over and have worked with Pierce Atwood to make the changes that would be in the best interest of the town. And council has recommended the motion as you see it on the agenda.
So I have a question. I recall at the meeting about the changes to the water testing. So they decided after testing the water for so many years that it was safe and they would no longer need to test it. And when I read these, I understood that they want to also eliminate soil testing.
Yeah.
Is the soil testing in addition to the water? Yes. So the way that I read this that is they said because the water is fine, we can make the assumption that the soil is also fine.
That is what they put in the documents, yes.
So I don't feel comfortable with that, not being a scientist myself, and just honestly, I didn't read this until 5 o'clock tonight. So on first read, it's quite a lot, and it's quite a lot of legalese, but it's really important stuff, right? We're talking about, like, if you read the amendment, which is close to the end of the packet, what this amendment is going to enable to happen is development in that area, and you would be able to dig below the water table. So this would be a change from the last one of these, which was I think in 2009, and all of that ability to develop hinges on the assumption that because the water table test is fine, then the soil is therefore fine. I don't think I'm okay with that. I feel like I would need an environmental scientist or the conservation committee or somebody with this knowledge to explain it to me, so I could have. I just don't feel comfortable with it. We're talking about serious stuff.
And that's why it comes to the board for you to decide. You are correct on the first page of the letter in the last paragraph. It says, in addition, the amendment diminishes the area where construction is limited, which should help promote possible future development.
I think unless we've all read this really carefully and maybe gotten some advice from an environmental scientist in the know, we should not make a decision today, in my opinion. I almost feel like I want to read it a second time. Because that seems like a big assumption, but again, I'm not a scientist.
Well, the good news for the board is you're meeting next Tuesday, so if you wanted to table it.
Really, a week from today?
Yeah, the 13th. If you wanted to have more time, you certainly could. There's no harm in that. And I agree, it is a serious concession to a site that has been very controversial.
Yes.
So what is the board's pleasure?
Well, let's hold on until the 13th.
I don't mind waiting 1 week.
1 week isn't gonna make a
And we're
big
gonna meet
difference.
next week.
Well, I don't mind waiting, but what happens in a week?
We meet again.
Well, I know,
Well, a week would enable me to read this a second time, and then at least to go to one of the biology teachers at school, or to do a little research on the internet. But just, honestly, I didn't read my packet literally until 5 o'clock tonight. And so this is like a thick document full of legalese, and there's multiple amendments, and in order to, you've got to flip several pages to get, paragraph 3, ... So I just feel like I need more time to really understand what we would be agreeing to allow to happen on our land. We could be making a decision that would affect, my children's children.
That doesn't seem like an unreasonable request.
No, I think we'll take the week and I myself will read over it again. I think that would be worthwhile.
And there's also an additional source document you may have forgotten because I bring you lots of material, but it's right outside my door, and it's a 3-ring binder that's about this thick that may have additional information that you would find helpful.
I have a 4-day weekend.
if we were to turn this down, would that mean the Maine Yankee would continue to test water and land?
Correct. Not the water, we already agreed to the water, but they threw in the land as an addition. And to me, it almost seems, I don't think it's sneaky, but it just seems like, with the water, they gave us a whole bunch of reports and data, and then here, there's just like 2 sentences. And in addition, let's do away with the soil testing as well, and open it up to development, and allow people to dig below the water table. These are, I feel, maybe they're big things. I need to learn more about it.
Okay, so we'll put this on for the 13th. Sherry Dunbar. The gazebo on the common.
With white lights, please.
With white lights. Let's build it first.
Well, that's on the common, they have color lights, that's right.
So the reason I'm here tonight is because the platform stage on the common is in dire need of replacement. Bob doctored it in the last couple of years to try to get us by, but this next coming year is just not going to be safe. So our long-term vision for that venue, that area for our concert has always been to have something more permanent, something more aesthetically pleasing. And so our committee has got together and we are hoping to maybe build a gazebo there. We do have some seed money to initiate the project. We have some ideas for fundraising, so we're going to be asking the town to do anything. We would work with the Historical Preservation Commission to come up with a design that would be appropriate. And I've even talked to John Reinhardt about it, and he was very excited about it. He thought it was a great thing. He even volunteered to be on the committee. So, and I feel the gazebo would really look so much nicer than if we were to rebuild another temporary stage like we've had in the past. There's a lot of work that goes along with putting up the tent every week. The rain comes, it's just a lot to it. If we had the gazebo, we could have lighting, and it could be used for other events for the public, art shows, other concerts. John mentioned the DePonte group, how that would be a great place for them to play. So there's a lot of potential there. The holiday time, the tree lighting and all of that stuff. So I'm here to ask the board for approval so that we can start the process and hopefully have the gazebo built to kick off our 2019 concert season.
Does the board have any questions for Sherry? Any comments?
I think it's a great idea. Absolutely terrific.
Are you thinking about basically the same
In
footprint?
basically the same place. Steve and Judy actually have some, I think, a photo of, we used to have a gazebo down there years and years ago. It was in a different location and it didn't have a top on it. So we would obviously go with a different style, but something that would be historically, something that would be appropriate, that the commission, the historical commission would be there with.
No round posts.
I don't know. I don't
Getting
know.
punchy.
Dave, you have something?
Sure, is that gonna be down beside the road like you got now, or up on the hill where?
Yeah, no, we would have it, I think, in the same location, because for music, that's the best location. Because you've got the background of the topography there, that helps with the sound.
Because talking about the old pictures that she mentioned, when it was up on the hill, that's where the town band used to play. I mean, we're talking people, it's been gone since I think.
Probably before I was born, right?
Before you were born, in the 30s, I think. Well, seriously. I didn't know if you was gonna put it up there or.
No, I think down where we have the stage right now is really, it's the flattest spot. It would be.
It's like a natural amphitheater.
That's what I was trying to say. Thank you.
Okay. So, if the board so sees fit, about a motion?
I do have one more question.
Yes?
Out to Judy's place, whatever it's called, on Route 1, there's a gazebo. Now, Phil DeVries told me that the gazebo that's out there, maybe Benny or Bobby remembers, do you know if that belongs to the town? Because Phil is adamant that was bought.
It just sold. It does not.
It was originally built with the intention of the town using it, but Mr. Casella paid for it. And it belongs to him.
Okay.
And I tried to get that donated to the town with the last sale, but the person who bought it had other plans for it, so.
Catherine?
I think that Norm Sherman has bought that property.
He did.
And he's thought about approaching him about it.
I did before it even closed. I tried to negotiate that because the other owner was gonna donate it, actually, to the.
Well, yes, he actually did.
Well, not him, the person who bought it. There was a buyer in between.
Oh, I see,
So,
yeah. Well, I actually talked with Mr. Casella. He built that with the intention of the town using it, but it did belong to him.
it would have been nice to just move that.
I think if he still owned it, he probably would give it to the town.
You can ask him.
Seriously?
To Norm?
Oh, no.
Oh, I know.
Okay, we have.
I'll make a motion that we allow the gazebo in the common.
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor? You have yourself a gazebo.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, the Huntoon Hill Grange blanket approval to operate Beano, Bingo, and Games of Chance for the year 2019.
I'll move we give blanket approval for Huntoon Hill Grange, operate Beano, Bingo, and Games of Chance for the year 2019.
And I will second it.
All those in favor? 5-0, thank you. The resignation of Wendy Donovan.
No, I don't, I.
Oh, okay, I move we accept the resignation of Wendy Donovan from the Historic Preservation Committee with regret.
I'll second it. All those in favor? Thank you. MDOT resurfacing project.
This is just strictly information for the board. We received this correspondence, and I just wanted to share it with the town because I know that you sometimes get questions about what is MDOT doing. So beginning a quarter of a mile north of the Monsway Road and extending approximately 3.9 miles they're going to put new pavement. So they're not opening any part of the highway, it's just an overlay, so that's just information.
I have a question about that. So it says, after the new pavement is placed, no permit to open the segment of highway will be granted for a period of 3 years, except as provided by blah, blah, blah. What does that mean? Does that mean that like if somebody wanted to build a business on that section of road, they couldn't get the cut to have a turn off of the road?
Correct. You can't disturb the pavement. If they have to put something underneath, they typically bore under it, but that's pretty standard when the state paves a road.
Yes, but you could still do a curb cut. 'Cause that wouldn't-
Okay, so it's not gonna prevent somebody from like putting up some.
No, this is just digging out the road.
It doesn't say, maybe it does, but are they gonna fix the old back road, the exit onto Route 1, like Deutsche Breeze?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Remember we discussed that with them when we met with them.
Yeah.
They actually had a public hearing here a year or two ago on it.
Yeah, and I think it was part of the 2019 work, but I have the file, I can check on that.
It's got to be one of the most dangerous intersections in town.
All right, we have the next one, Central Maine Power, New England Clean Energy Connect.
So as you know, there's been a lot of conversation about this project, and so I just provided to the board the information from Central Maine Power, and then you also received a communication from the Say No to 145-mile transmission line through Maine. There's no action that's needed on this. Catherine very graciously spoke to Doug Bastian from Alma and recommended that Doug give me a call, and we have not yet connected, but I'm interested in what information that Alma was able to determine, and so as soon as I have that, I'll bring it to you, unless Catherine, you remember.
Well, I saw Doug again, and he said that what they had done was contacted the Public Utilities Commission, PUC, and they registered themselves, as the town did, as an intervener, so that they could get all the paperwork that was involved, I guess, on both sides of the, whatever, all of this stuff. And I'm doing some research, but I haven't had time to. But that's what Alma has done.
Didn't we ask a gentleman from CMP to come and talk to us the last
Yes.
meeting we had?
Yes.
And he didn't because he's out of the country.
But he is planning to come before the board in December.
Okay.
Yeah. I believe he was traveling as it relates to this project, and something unexpected came up that he had to deal with.
Because if I'm not mistaken, did we not do some type of communication with CMP that we?
A letter of support.
A letter of support. But Alma has taken theirs back, if I'm not mistaken,
But I
several
don't think we
countries.
should do that until we really know what
That's why
what it's all about.
That's why he was supposed to come and talk to us.
And it's my understanding from a legislator that I spoke with, that with the additional lines that CMT proposes to put up, towns can get revenue from that because of property taxes.
Okay.
So there is that side of it.
So there's
So,
nothing-
but I don't know enough about it to make any other comments.
So he's gonna be coming in December?
Correct.
Are you talking John Carroll?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, our next one is tax abatements.
Quick.
Yeah, quick claim deed.
I'll move the tax abatements as presented.
Wait, are we on quick claims? Are we on letter H, or did we jump to
Oh,
12?
I'm sorry.
We're still on 10H.
H.
Don't get it.
Kenneth and Hazel.
But you can move that one.
Do we need to move that one? I move that one.
Yes.
They're one of the people that were on the list that were provided to you earlier that have paid their taxes. Therefore, we're doing a quick claim.
I'll move the quick claim deed For Kim
You have to
Bill.
second it, Kim already moved it.
Oh, I'll second it then.
I was mumbling.
Okay, all those in favor? Thank you. Town manager's report.
So I just wanted to put on the agenda, just because last year we had a lot of conversation about the winter parking ban and folks saying they didn't know about it. We hadn't advertised it, as you know, because they came and chatted with you folks. The signs are up. It goes into effect November 15th. They've been up for a little bit. Goes November 15th to April 15th. No, we do not give permits for people to park on the road and violation of this. And the one question that the police chief wanted me to ask was, if they get a call about a car, do you want him to come or you want him to call you? He just said that in fun. So, but I just wanted to make sure that that was part of the agenda so that folks are aware, because I know you do get questions about it. So, Steve, do you know how long we've had the signs up? Been a couple of weeks, right?
Last Thursday.
Last Thursday,
Just about a week ago.
Okay. So they are up. So that was just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Tell the police chief to ticket the car and then call him.
Okay. I will. Wanted to give you a brief update on the restroom project downtown that you had given permission to continue to move forward. We have been working with the waterfront committee, and last Friday, I believe it would now be for the third time, the DEP came and inspected the site again with a different person. So we are still working on the permit. We walked the site with them. I will say that Kathy did it in the rain and walked the site with them. So we are still trying to move the permit along. The pipes will be placed in the railroad right away. We ran into a little bit of a problem because they wanted us to have a deed, and so we had to kick it back to them to say it's your State Department, whatever you need to give to us. So I just wanted you to know that's something that we have been talking about, but I haven't brought it up to the board, but we are working on it actively. We should have some dates. I had another phone conversation with Terry today, the school superintendent. We have not forgotten about the boards had made a request a little while ago to have a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen. And so they meet next Tuesday just like we do. And so she hopes to have some dates. We kind of discussed not having it on a regular meeting night, to have it just as a meeting with the school board. So again, that's something that we had talked about that I just wanted to bring you up to date on. So I won't have it for the next board meeting, but perhaps the meeting after we'll have some dates to propose when they can meet. I did get a response back from Peter Murray. You had asked about a cost going into the next budget year. What Peter wanted to know was, first of all, do we want him to be the legal counsel to do this? I assumed that you do, but I wanted to clarify that. And if we do, he will go back to some of the folks he used in the past that are the experts and get cost estimates from them, because it will be more than just legal costs, it will be their expertise. So before I proceeded with that, I just want to make sure that we are planning on continuing to use Peter Murray and Sarah McDaniel, unless you wanted to do something different.
I'm sorry, I don't remember who are they.
Our main Yankee agreement that we have for taxation expires.
Okay. Thank you.
And so the board had asked for a budget number for next year. And so I got the email from Peter, and I wanted to just confirm with you that you still want to use them as counsel.
That's only he responded in the past.
Okay.
We continue using
Somebody
them.
else would have to just start from
Okay.
scratch, and he's already done.
And we would like him to talk with his consultants to get estimates on those costs also, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, please.
So I will have him follow up on that. So those were a couple of the outstanding items that were on our notes, and so I wanted to make sure to circle back around and bring those to you.
Okay, other board business. Assessors abatements. Nicholas Hinckley, Stacy Biddle, Miles Brewer, and Robert Greenleaf, and Harry Creevy.
Move the abatements as presented.
I'll second it. All those in favor? 5-0. I'll make a motion to, I'm sorry.
Could I, just a couple of things?
Certainly. I'm sorry.
No problem. There's my freedom of access training. I did not check the boxes that says course training, and I didn't know what to put into that, but.
Oh, you want to just do a thorough review of the information made available? You have a choice, then you could take a course or you could just read this.
Well, I did, but I didn't know which box.
The first one. It says a thorough review.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Then we are complete.
thank you, sir.
Did you have any luck in regards to the sign down on Pleasant Street about going around the island?
Yes, I think it's going to be replaced. They were going to order some signs. We had some others ordered and they're going to replace them.
Okay.
Yep, thank you, Ben.
The junkyard permit last week, there was an issue afterwards with someone. Did that get resolved out of 144?
It did. Norm Sherman came in to see me, and he said that he would certainly talk to his neighbors. We don't have the ability to require him to put up a fence because he has the natural buffering and the sand berms out there. But he also said that he was going to be having some of the cars crushed and removed. Am I using the right words, Polly?
Crushed.
So they have talked, but he does not plan to put up a fence at this time.
Okay, and how does that relate to the people who came in with that complaint?
I gave him a copy of their letter, and what the ordinance says and the statute requires is buffering, and he's met that requirement.
There's a setback. Was that part of their concern?
And he hadn't encroached on that. The code officer went out and checked that. So we could ask for voluntary compliance, but we cannot force him to put up a fence.
So if they can't get financing to sell their restaurant, they could
put up
a fence themselves?
Yes.
And one more thing, you called up early today about a right-of-way down on the parking lot at Main to find trees.
It was a request from David Soul's law office about an easement for, I can't remember the Hassenfoss, I believe is how you say the name, to put a water line under the town parking lot behind trees. And what I had asked was, I wanted to send it off to council because I want to make sure that everything is in the easement that was in there. But I also, Ben, after talk to you, I made copies to give to Doug also to have him go take a look and see if there was any reason that it would cause any kind of a hindrance for us. So I have sent it down to council, and if it is approved, everything is okay, you'll see it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Well, I mean, I gave it the okay as far as I was concerned, but I got thinking about it later, and I wondered if it wouldn't be more appropriate if they were to come in and ask for the right-of-way for the Board of Selectmen.
Is this right away or an easement?
Easement, I'm sorry, easement, but.
So you want to ask David Soul to come in? I certainly can do that.
Well, what I was thinking was, I mean, why, we should hire our lawyer to do it, but why shouldn't they pay all the legal bills? Why should we do that to them? So, I mean, isn't that reasonable?
I think it's reasonable.
Isn't the water main right in front of that place?
What I understand, Bob, is that the line, I don't have the documents with me, but for those folks to turn their water on and off, they had to go into the basement of the bottom, and I want to say it was one of the retail stores there. So it was kind of a funny arrangement where they had to enter someone else's property to turn their water off and on. So they were trying to move the line and fix the shut off. And that's a really broad brush. I mean, it's like 3 pages of an easement, but that's roughly what they were asking for. And there's a map and everything.
Well, that's because those properties was all owned.
At one time by one
Right,
person,
yeah.
right?
And this would have to be done before they decided to pay for whatever DOT's gonna do with that parking lot.
And
But
I
I
don't-
also agree with you, I mean, this is an expense that they are causing the town.
Which we get no benefit out of.
That's right.
There's no reason they shouldn't pay our lawyers' fees.
Sure. That might be something to mention to David, that it's, you know. we
That's a
would
very
like to-
good point then.
It's
Would
the
like
cost
to
of
have
signing
it,
the easement.
Yeah.
and request that they pay for our legal fees.
So like when someone applies for a permit, they pay for the
Right.
applications, that sort of thing.
Good job.
Well, she gave me a heads up, I had a lot to think about.
Well, I didn't think about it, so that's good. Anything else?
Just one quick thing.
Yes.
I noticed down in the vicinity of where the town phone booth used to be, there's a couple of our signs that have been damaged, destroyed, really. Are we keeping track of that so that that stuff will have to be replaced?
Are you talking about the museum and the street
Yeah.
sign? Yes, actually, Pike was in yesterday, and picked up the contact information to have those signs replaced, so they're taking care of that.
Good. Somebody hit the curb out here too. Looks like a road grader went through there and peeled up some of that sidewalk. Is that our responsibility because the state put that in there, or is that the state's responsibility?
Where, Bob?
It's right out here where you turn to go up 27. It looks like somebody swung wide with something with a blade on it and hit that sidewalk and peeled the outside of it out.
I'll have Doug take a look at that, because that was replaced as part of the water project recently. Remember they came across there, so.
No, it's down toward
Oh, I'm
the,
thinking out here. Okay.
yeah, it's right, you've seen it, Steve.
Yes, it is, it's a mess.
Where is it, Bob?
Too big, just so if you're coming from town and you turn
Oh,
on
yeah.
27, right on that curve, you're
Okay.
taking a heck of a divot out of it.
Yeah, I mean, if nobody owned up to doing that, then who's responsible? The ability is to fix that.
Okay, I'm not sure, Bob, I'll follow up on that.
And I have one thing. Are they going to be striping the parking lot?
Yes,
Okay. When?
that's a good question. I know Doug has met with them, but I don't know.
Before winter?
If you want it done before winter.
No, I'm just asking.
I have not had that conversation with Doug. I just know that he did speak to them about striping it, so.
Because I noticed today when I came down, it's still not striped.
No, that's correct.
That's why you park.
I park crooked, I park in bushes, I park in.
This is very wide, luxurious piece of land.
Judy, you have something you'd like to say besides that bush?
About that hole in the bush. I just want to mention that I believe that Mr. George Flanders would be very happy to hear that you are going to put the gazebo back on the common. He talked about that. You were puzzled.
Oh, I never know what you're gonna say next. I think you're right.
He would be very happy.
Thank you. Now, if there's nothing else,
Judy? Who would be happy? George Flanders, he's on the select board committee.
I'm going to make a motion to go into executive session pursuant to the provision of Title 36, 8412 MRSA to consider request for abatement of taxes for reasons of poverty.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0.